stability, a lot of people look to spiritual gurus. With so much uncertainty in the world, it was reassuring to put your faith in someone who offered a sense of control over the chaos. But sometimes, that guidance turned out to be dangerous. Many of those gurus were self-proclaimed, and oftentimes more interested in boosting their own fortune than providing the support they promised. And when it came to these false prophets, none were more dangerous than Charles Manson. Charles promised his followers the world. As long as they did what he said, they'd be rewarded with eternal happiness beyond their wildest dreams. His disciples were all too eager to obey. They followed his every order without question, even if it meant committing murder. The human mind is fascinating. It controls how we think, how we feel, how we love, and how we hate. And sometimes the mind drives us to do something truly unspeakable. This is Killer Minds, formerly known as Mind of a Serial Killer, a Crime House original. Every Monday and Thursday, we'll be taking deep dives into the minds of history's most notorious serial killers and murderers. The show is still the same, the name just changed. And if you're interested in more true crime stories from this week in history, check out Crime House, the show. Every episode covers multiple cases, unified by the same theme, so every week you get something a little different. At Crime House, we want to express our gratitude to you as users who make this possible. Please support us by rating, reviewing, and following Killer Minds wherever you get your podcasts. Your feedback truly matters. And to enhance your Killer Minds listening experience, subscribe to Crime House Plus on Apple Podcasts. You'll get every episode ad-free, and instead of having to wait for each episode of a two-part series, you'll get access to both at once, plus exciting Crime House bonus content. I'm Vanessa Richardson.
And I'm Dr. Kristen Engel. As Vanessa takes you through our subject stories, I'll be helping her analyze what drove them to commit their crimes as we try to understand how someone can do such horrible things.
This is the first of two episodes on Charles Manson. Some call him a cult leader, some call him a serial killer. Some wonder if he can even be considered a killer at all, because even though he went to prison for murder, he delivered a fatal blow to any of his victims. His followers were his weapon of choice. In today's episode, we'll dig into Charles' early life and the circumstances that led him to join the notorious Manson family cult. Next time, we'll follow Charles' desperate search for purpose, his descent into madness, and the tragic murders that still haunt society today. And as always, we'll be asking the question, what makes a killer? Hey everyone, Vanessa Richardson here. I'm narrating the first audiobook from Crime House Studios called Murder in India. Told through the lens of 5 heart-pounding murder cases, this thrilling audiobook traces the evolving, sometimes insidious role media has had in shaping true crime storytelling. Murder in India is a Crime House original audiobook. Find it now on Spotify. Episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Listen, adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than this film, from swimming lessons to piano classes. Us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives, but are we investing in our future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing, and this investment costs less than that average school fee. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify. Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. Luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify, the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into 1934, Charles Manson's life was driven by deception. His birth certificate listed Kathleen and William Manson as his parents. But for years, Charles had no idea that William wasn't his father. That honor most likely belonged to a con artist named Colonel Scott. Colonel was Scott's given first name, but if people assumed he was in the army, he didn't bother correcting him. That's how he caught Kathleen Madison detection at a dance club in Ironton, Ohio. He was 23. She was just 15. Kathleen was charmed by the older man she assumed was a military. So when she discovered she was pregnant sometime in the spring of 1934, Kathleen had no reason to doubt the colonel when he said he was being called away on duty. He promised to be back as soon as he could, but she never heard from him again. After a few months, Kathleen finally realized she did too. And now she needed to find someone to help raise her soon-to-be newborn baby. That's when William Manson, who worked for a dry cleaning business, entered the picture. It's not really clear how the two of them met, but by the time Charles was born on November 12, 1934, Kathleen and William were married. However, it doesn't seem either of them was all that interested in parenting. William wasn't around much, and neither was Kathleen. Most days, she dropped Charles off with her mom so she could go out drinking with her brother. We must discuss the impact of Charles' early childhood. Kathleen was a minor, so her judgment, including the name's impulsiveness, decision-making, even emotional regulation, is impaired because she did not have a fully developed frontal lobe. This also affects her ability to cope appropriately with the demands of being a mother, not to mention any postpartum effects she may have. Given that Charles' father harmed his mother, she may have some conscious or unconscious resentment that she projected onto Charles as a result. Her seemingly desperate and impulsive decision to marry William appears to be driven by more societal pressures on unwed mothers back then, not necessarily marriage that was built on love. And Charles later learned that William is not his biological father, will more likely than not affect his sense of self-worth, his identity, and his trust. Kathleen abandoning Charles to go drinking indicates she may have an alcohol use disorder, and I also wonder if she drank while she was pregnant. That could have caused a prenatal injury, and if so, would warrant further exploration to understand Charles' development. Then, there's the layer of Kathleen and William's disinterest in being parents. The effects of emotionally absent parents on children is well documented. Those children tend to have more difficulty with trust, with self-esteem, and forming healthy relationships. And when you compound that with the abandonment, and that William wasn't his biological father, that is pretty profound. Nurturance is critical for a child's development, and if their immediate caregivers aren't providing that or reinforcing a healthy development, that child is at risk of exhibiting poor emotional regulation later on. They have an increase in academic struggles, behavioral deficit, and other life. But even if Charles' grandmother was a nurturing guardian, what kind of impact does it have on a child when they can tell their parents? In half a mile, turn left on the Detective 114 West Farm, Market 51 North Road. It's amazing. It's a really good question. Statistically, if a child has emotionally absent parents, but they have at least one constant, loving, and nurturing presence, like a grandmother, for example, they are more likely to be resilient and overcome those statistical odds that I mentioned. Turn left on the Detective 114 West ramp. And that's why there's so many adult children of emotionally absent parents who are high-functioning. They are continue on Texas 114 West for 6 miles. Generational cycles. And they have learned to have healthy attachment as adults. Of course, this all depends on a number of factors, such as when that nurturing presence entered their life, how long they remained in their life, how available they were to them, as well as other things. But the fact remains that children will recognize that their parents are arrested after an unsuccessful robbery. Kathleen spent the next few years behind bars, while young Charles was given to his aunt, uncle, and cousin who lived near the West Virginia prison where she was incarcerated.
And this is what I meant about those other variables that affect resiliency. If his grandmother was a constant source of nurturing and affection, then taking him away from her and passing him around through different relatives like that really does reduce his ability to gain that resiliency.
It was a strict household on top of that, and Charles was frequently punished for breaking the rules. And he didn't have it much easier at school. He was small for his age and prone to mischief. That meant he drew the attention of bullies and received discipline from his teachers. It was a lot for a young boy to handle on his own. So when Kathleen was released from prison in 1942, 8-year-old Charles was over the moon. Thus, after a short period of good behavior from both of them, things went south. Kathleen had a hard time staying on the straight and narrow, and Charles took his cues from her. He stopped going to school and already constantly tried to run away, to the tune of 18 times over the course of 3 years. And in February 1951, when Charles was 16, he got away from the Indiana Boys' School for good. He and a couple other kids stole a car and decided to take it for a multi-state joyride, which got him in trouble with the federal authorities. Instead of sending Charles back to Indiana, he was placed in the federal system. First at a facility called the National Training School in Washington, D.C., and then
In half a mile, turn right onto County Road 3241, Honeysuckle.
Bridge Honor Camp in Virginia. This time, he was the one attacking others. In January 1952, Charles was caught sexually assaulting another.
Turn right onto County Road 3241, Honeysuckle.
While holding a blade to his throat.
And this is how I mentioned we're starting to see his overcompensation for years of fear. Continue on County Road 3241 for 3/4 of a mile. Control of his life. He is ensuring he has all the power and control now. And control is what sexual assault is motivated by.
After that, he was transferred to a high-security reform institution. With nowhere left to go,